Welcome back to Luke's Properties YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact tactics and strategies that you need to use to get your first rent to rent deal. I'm going to give you a sneak peek into the marketing techniques that I use inside my business, and I'm going to show you some of what I teach my students. So if you're struggling to get your first rent to rent deal, then I think you should watch this video because this is working for me and my students. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work for you too. My rent to rent business makes 6 figures every single year like clockwork. I've been doing this for 7 years now. These marketing techniques work and I want you to achieve the same success. So stay tuned till the end, make some notes and copy what I'm doing. Let's get into it. So first, I want to define marketing. Now, what is marketing? Well, by definition, marketing is the process of connecting businesses with customers by understanding their needs, creating value, and communicating it effectively to encourage purchase or adoption. Marketing is somewhat of a superpower, and if you can really work out how to be a good marketer, I guarantee you're going to become a rich and wealthy person. Marketing is a special skill, and it's something that I've developed and worked on over the last 7 years. And every time my marketing skills have grown, so has my income. And it's not a coincidence. The better you are at marketing, the more skilled you are at pulling people towards your service or product, the more likely you are to get more leads, to get more sales, and to ultimately generate more revenue. So marketing is a skill that you can't really live without if you want to run your own business. The best marketeers in the world have the best businesses in the world because they know how to market. They know how to pull people into their product or service, and because of that, they get paid very well. So marketing is a skill that you absolutely have to learn and try to master. So by definition, to be a good marketer, you need to be able to understand your customers' needs, and then you need to communicate how you can add value to them and solve their problems. So in order to do this with Rent to Rent, we must first understand who our customer is. The clearer you can become on who your customer is, the better your marketing message will speak to them and the better you can serve them. You must understand who you're trying to help. So your ideal customer with Rent to Rent is more than likely going to be a portfolio landlord, so someone who owns 4 or more properties. Your ideal customer is going to prioritize a steady, predictable income over maximum rent. A portfolio landlord is going to be more focused on a steady, predictable income rather than trying to sweat the asset and squeeze every penny out of it. They're going to be more concerned with passive, hassle-free income. Your ideal customer doesn't want to deal with tenants day to day. So with Rent to Rent, a lot of HMO landlords don't want to deal with tenants, yet they have houses that have multiple tenants in them. So quite often they're willing to free up a portion of the income to someone else, maybe you, in order to not have to deal with tenants at all. Maybe they've become an accidental landlord. Maybe they've inherited a property and they didn't have any plans of becoming a landlord, but now they have this property, they're renting it out because that's the smart thing to do, but they don't really want to do it, they have no interest in doing it. Maybe they have busy jobs, a busy work life, a busy family, and they don't want to juggle being a landlord and running their own life. So this type of person is also open to freeing up that responsibility to someone else. Your ideal customer is normally going to be an older landlord, someone who's closer to retirement, maybe in their 50s or 60s, someone who values their time more than money and wants to spend as much time as possible with their family, with their children, with their spouse, rather than spending their time managing a property or dealing with tenants or dealing with maintenance. So the clearer you can get on your ideal customer and the sharper your message can become, the better your marketing can be. So this is your ideal customer with Rent to Rent. Now let's look at how we go about marketing to this person. What do we do to speak to this person? Well, here's some of the outreach strategies that we use in our business, and these are the strategies and tactics that work for us. So we send online messages on Gumtree, on OpenRent, on Facebook. We send as many messages as possible. We're normally trying to arrange a viewing, but on some of these portals, we may send a screenshot or a link to our landing page or to our brochure so the landlord can have a read and gain a further understanding of our services. Then when they message us back, they've already read about our services and they're going to be a warm lead rather than a cold lead that you're trying to warm up. They're already interested in your service, which makes the pitch a lot easier. So we send as many messages as possible on those platforms. We also go and walk into estate agents and offer our services to them. Speaking to people face to face builds so much more trust than just being a voice on the phone. Anyone can pick up the phone and try their luck, but a lot less people will actually have the courage to walk into an estate agent's, look people in the eye and offer their services. This puts you immediately in a higher bracket than everyone who's calling up on the phone because you're there in person, trying to build trust, trying to do some business. And that builds rapport and moves you up the pecking order. We also call a lot of estate agents. You'll do this at a high volume and you'll combine this with walk-ins. So you can also pitch face to face. If you make a lot of phone calls and you walk into the estate agents the following week, this builds trust, and all that work, effort and energy starts to compound and make you seem like a more professional and trustworthy person. So we combine agent calls with agent walk-ins. We also make a lot of landlord phone calls. So we call a lot of landlords on Gumtree, on Facebook. Again, we do this at a high volume and we try and combine this with a viewing or a meeting over a coffee. We'll make as many phone calls to landlords as possible, try and arrange a viewing, and either after that viewing or a couple days later, we'll pitch our services, we'll make an offer, and we'll try and go over the final details face to face. Again, this builds trust, it builds rapport, it shows transparency and professionalism. You're not trying to force the landlord into making a decision, you're not trying to rush them, but you are showing them that you have integrity, that you mean what you say, and that you're a serious person. No landlord is going to give you the keys to their asset without knowing what you're like as a person, without knowing that you're trustworthy and not a time waster. So we combine landlord phone calls with landlord meetings, either on the viewing or after the viewing. Our next strategy is landlord letters. Now we send around 400 letters every quarter of the year. Some of my students are sending 500, 600 every quarter. The more letters you send, the more chance you have of a landlord opening your letter, reading about your services, having a look on your landing page and giving you a call or emailing you. Because again, they're reading about your service and how it can help them. You've approached them in a professional way by writing to them. They're looking for a solution to landlording. They're looking for you just as much as you're looking for them. They get your letter, they have a read, they check your website, they check your business out, and they give you a call. Again, this is a warm lead. Rather than warming someone up, cold calling them, you're now receiving a phone call or a message from a landlord who's already warm to your service, which makes the pitch a lot easier. We send letters at a high volume. The purpose of the letter is to arrange a viewing and a meeting. So again, we'll go and view the property and then we'll try and sit down with the landlord and make an offer within a day or so. We explain to the landlord what we would need from them and they explain to us what they would need from us. And it's a back and forth negotiation until both parties are happy. And then we move forward and hopefully sign an agreement. Our next outreach strategy is door knocking. So once you've got the HMO register, you're going to have the home addresses of the HMO landlords in your investment area. Now this is quite a bold move, but again, many of these landlords will be looking for a solution to their landlord issues. And if you were to knock on their door with a leaflet or a business card and quickly pitch them face to face, there's no harm in doing that. One of my students did this and he's had some success from it. So it can work. And if you're hungry and determined to get off the ground, then you'll do this. You can't be proud and not where you want to be yet. You have to drop the ego and be willing to do all of these outreach strategies until you get to where you want to be. Because success isn't going to fall on your lap. It isn't going to just fall out of the sky. You have to go out there and get it. Everything's earned, nothing is given. But if you do all of these strategies consistently for a sustained period of time, then it's inevitable that you'll get your first rent to rent deal. You just have to be willing to do the work. So we combine landlord letters with door knocking. And again, we do both of these at a high volume. We're targeting HMO landlords and we try and leave them a leaflet or even pitch them on the phone or face to face, whichever feels more comfortable depending on where the landlord's at. Some landlords will be very open and ready to commit straight away. Other landlords may need a few more conversations, maybe a couple coffees to really work out how the service works and if you're a trustworthy person or not. So those are the outreach strategies that we use. The next part of rent to rent marketing is your brand identity. Now, all of your marketing material needs to speak to your ideal customer. So all of your letters, all of your phone calls, all of your online literature, your landing page, your business cards, they all need to speak to this person, your ideal customer. All of your marketing material needs to have a consistent message, and all of the copy should speak to the fact that you can solve all of these problems for a landlord. Your marketing material needs to identify landlord problems and explain or demonstrate how your service can be the solution. This needs to be a consistent message throughout your marketing material. So your landing page, your leaflets, your letters, your business cards, your emails, your messages, they all need to be consistent and they all need to speak the same message, the message of solution to the landlord problems. Next is your character as a person. Your character must match your marketing. So if your marketing message is to solve all of these problems for a landlord, then your character must match your marketing. So your character must be professional. You must be punctual and organized. So if you arrange a viewing with a landlord, make sure you're on time. These things build trust. If you can't show up on time to a meeting or a viewing, then what chance have you got of managing a property? So you must be on time. You must be organized. Transparency is another one. You must explain intentions clearly. Be upfront about the risks and challenges. Don't try and pitch a landlord by saying there'll never be any void periods, there'll never be any damage to the property, nothing will ever go wrong, because any wise landlord will know that that's rubbish. Things do go wrong, and every now and again there will be a small void period here or there. That's life, that's property. So don't try and pitch this perfect scenario where there's no issues, no problems, because any wise landlord knows that isn't real, and you're going to lose the trust and come across like a newbie. Instead, be honest, be transparent, explain your intentions clearly. Don't lie. Tell the landlord what type of tenants and guests you'll be targeting. Tell them the platforms you're going to be using. Be transparent. Explain that you'll only be renting to high quality tenants, working professionals, nurses, contractors, engineers, these types of people. Be open and honest. Tell them that you will use platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com for lead generation, but then explain that you'll only do a minimum of 3 to 4 night stays, and you'll do your due diligence on any guests that book. Reassure them that you're not just going to let anyone rent the property. Be transparent, open and honest. You need to be reliable. You need reliability, you need trustworthiness, and you need knowledge. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to know everything about property. But what you do need to know is the HMO rules. You need to know the rules of Airbnb, of Booking.com. You need to know the HMO compliance. These are things that make you a specialist. You need to know the procedure of vetting a guest on Airbnb. You need to know how deposits work if you charge them. By knowing these things, you position yourself as a specialist, and that's what the landlords want. They want to work with a specialist who's going to make their job of being a landlord easier. So build up your knowledge. Read the HMO regulations before you approach landlords. Study them. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Once you build up your knowledge, then this will build your confidence. And confidence comes across, especially when you meet people face to face, but it can come across on the phone as well. Confident people know what they're talking about. You can hear in someone's voice when they're confident, when they're sure. And landlords want to work with people that are sure about what they're doing, that speak with conviction because they know it's going to work. Not someone who's being timid, who has doubt, who pauses a lot, stutters a lot, and isn't prepared. So make sure you're prepared before you speak to landlords. Practice, practice, practice. Do your research so that when you're on those phone calls or at those meetings, you know what you're talking about, or at least you're coming across like you do. Flexibility and adaptability. Now again, most estate agents won't be willing to pay a landlord a guaranteed rent or set all of the bills up in their company name. Being willing to do these things give you an advantage in this market. Some landlords need to do a refurbishment. Sometimes you'll approach an HMO landlord and they'll be midway through a refurbishment. And by being flexible and offering your guaranteed rent service in 4 to 6 weeks time, this makes your service very appealing because the landlord knows once they refurbish the property, they've got a guaranteed rent offer and they can start getting paid straight away. In some cases, you may need to help out with the refurbishment. Maybe you can start furnishing the rooms. Once the landlord gets one room ready, you could then start furnishing it and marketing it. That way, you start to create some traffic, you start to get some tenant inquiries before you've started paying for the property. And the landlord feels like they're working together with you as a collaboration rather than feeling like they're doing all the work themselves. Maybe you know tradesmen that could help out with certain jobs in the house. These are the sort of things that give you an edge in the marketplace. So being flexible and being able to adapt will give you an edge in this market. So don't be so rigid. Be willing to work with a landlord. Be willing to be patient, or equally, be willing to move quite quickly if need be. These are the things that get you ahead in this game. You also need to have problem solving skills. So if the landlord's had some empty rooms, or if their marketing isn't good, then you need to be able to solve those problems. So you need to be able to improve the marketing and fill those rooms. Solving problems is basically what business is. The more problems you solve, the more value you can create, and the more value you create, the more you get paid. It's quite simple. So be ready to solve problems. And a phrase I always like to remind myself of is your reward for solving a problem is always another problem. But every time you solve a problem, you add value. And when you add value, you get paid. So always remember that. There's always going to be problems. You're always going to have to solve problems. Entrepreneurship is a never-ending path with problems and obstacles all the way along it. Your job is to be able to jump over the obstacles, run round them or through them. And as a result of doing that, you get paid. So get used to solving problems, because that's the game you're choosing to be in if you start your own business. And the final character trait is empathy. You must be able to listen to your landlords, listen to their pain points, listen to what they're finding difficult, and then offer a solution. You need to be able to actively listen, and I don't just mean being quiet when they're speaking. You need to do that, but you should also make notes and read your notes back to the landlord to show that you've been actively listening. This will help you build trust and will show empathy and show that you actually care. So this is rent-to-rent marketing, guys. If you follow all of these steps that I've showed you here, you'll be able to attract rent-to-rent landlords to you and get your first rent-to-rent deal. If you need someone to help you get your first rent-to-rent deal, then I'll put a link in the video description below. Click the link and book in a free call with me. On that call, we'll have a conversation, make a plan for you, and we'll work out if we're the right fit for each other. If not, then just copy my marketing techniques, use them in your own business, and I guarantee you'll succeed. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.